lot.
Hello family and friends, this is Rob, the Sapper Gardener representing Essayons Family Garden. And today we have another edition of Chow Hall with the Sapper. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. One of the things that I've been trying to do more lately is connect with my roots. We do a lot of traditional Filipino dishes for my wife or where she comes from. Obviously, I'm an American, but I'm an African American, so my ancestors came from Africa. And we go to different African restaurants, especially before I got married. I would go to a lot of them, and I enjoy the food, but I haven't been cooking a lot of food from Africa. I've been cooking African American foods all my life. So we're trying to do some things, and I've got a recipe that I'm going to do today, and that recipe is East African seafood stew. And I researched it online because I'm cooking something for me, but especially for my wife because she likes seafood stews. And while I was doing some research on this African version of it, it was remarkably like a Brazilian seafood stew that we did. A couple of small differences, but we're going to try to put it together. I'm going to show you the recipes. I'm going to talk to you about the seafood stock that we make to go with it, and hopefully you guys will try this at home. So let me run through this real quick. So we've got quite a few ingredients in front of us. The African seafood stew is like a lot of different recipes. You can mix and match and change things how you see fit. So these are some of the basics and a few slight changes we've made to the recipes we saw. But the main ingredients are going to be fish, and we're using cod. We've got some shrimp, and because my wife likes this, we're using a variety pack of seafood that's got squid, mussels, shrimp, clams. I think that may be it, but it's a seafood. So it's a variety of seafood in here. We've got about a cup and a half of diced bell peppers. We've got some chopped carrots, some chopped red onions, some quartered cherry tomatoes, some chopped potatoes, some coconut milk, some chili paste, some Burberry sauce, spice, and I may be not pronouncing that right, B-E-R-B-E-R-E, I believe. About 8 ounces of tomato sauce. We're going to use a couple of teaspoons of curry powder. We're going to saute our onions with some peanut oil. And one of the changes we're going to make, the original recipes we saw call for a quarter cup of chopped cilantro. We're going to use about 2 teaspoons of chopped cilantro, and we're going to use a cilantro sauce that we use, and we've just found that this adds a lot of flavor doing it this way. So these are our main ingredients for the seafood stew, and I'll take you and show you guys what we did for our fish stock. So the fish stock is just going to be a talking experiences. Apologies, but I've already started it. What we used for our fish stock was some coconut water. We still have this. We used a lot of the leftover shrimp tails that we've used for different dishes. We throw those in the freezer, so we threw that down in our coconut water. We threw in some minced celery, some carrots, some minced onions, and we added just a little bit of chicken stock powder. And we've been boiling this low boil for probably about 20-30 minutes. We're going to continue to keep this on a low boil until we get ready to add it into our crock pot, our stew pot, with the rest of the ingredients. So let me get started on that. So as our seafood stock continues to simmer on a low boil, we're going to add our onions in with our peanut oil, and we're going to saute these until they're soft. And then we're going to go on to the next step. So hang tight, folks, and we will be right back. So next we're going to add the tomato sauce to the onions. We're going to sprinkle in our curry powder, and we're going to drop in our potatoes. And we're going to stir those and get them mixed up as best we can and let these cook for a few minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. So now we're going to add in some more of the coconut water, and ideally what you would want to do is just have a big pot almost equal size to this one to do all your coconut water in one pot. But we're going to do about 3 cups of coconut water, and we're going to do half of our seafood stock in here, and then after it's cooked for a bit, then we're going to add the rest in. So we'll be right back. So we've been boiling it on a low boil for about 10 minutes. So we're going to add some carrots in because we like carrots. We added some carrots into the fish stock, but because they've cooked longer, they're going to be a lot softer and a little bit more broken down. This will give it a little bite. And we're going to add in our cilantro paste in, and we're going to let that cook for a bit. We can get it out. And the cilantro paste, this is actually came from the Latin section of our grocery store. It's I guess more common in some of the Latin recipes and dishes, but we like it. It just gives it a lot more flavor without pieces of cilantro floating around in your food. And we're going to let this continue on a low boil for about 10 more minutes. Then we'll add in the rest of our ingredients and cook it for about 20 more. So one of the things that is common in a lot of the African restaurants is the bread that they serve with a lot of the dishes. It's called Injera. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. Mrs. Crew for Life, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But Injera bread is a soft, spongy bread that you use almost like a cooking utensil to pick up your food. And we're trying it. This is our second attempt. Our first one went up in flames, but we're gonna try it again. So we have teff flour, and with the Injera, you mix it according to the instructions I saw, 50-50 with water. And you get almost like a pancake consistency. And we have it here. And we're about to put it in our oven at 400 degrees in a cast iron pan to go with our East African seafood stew. So we'll let you know if we go down in flames again or if this second batch is a success. So we've cooked the stew until the potatoes are slightly al dente, semi-soft, semi-firm. So now we're going to add in our peppers, our bell peppers, red, white, and green, or red, yellow, and green. It's appropriate colors. We're going to add in our chopped cherry tomatoes. We're going to add in our chili paste. And we're going to add in our Burberry spice. And you have to be careful with the Burberry spice. We have made a few dishes with it, so you don't want to put too much. We put in about 3-4 teaspoons. That can get hot just depending on how much you put in there. Some recipes they put in, you know, a quarter cup, a half cup, just depending on how spicy you want the food, how long you're cooking the food, a lot of different things. And we're going to put in our coconut milk. And that's going to give it a nice, creamy, rich flavor. And we did not add any salt into this. What we're going to do after this cooks for a bit, we'll taste it, and if we think it needs salt, then we'll come back and we'll add salt into it at that time. So we're going to cook this for about 10 more minutes, and then we're going to get our seafood added in. So we've cooked our stew for about 10, 12 minutes, 15 maybe. Now we're going to add our seafood in. So we're going to do our shrimp. Hopefully we're going to do our shrimp. Come on, shrimp, get in there. We're going to do the other assorted seafood blend that I got from my wife. Give it a quick stir. Oh, hold on. Get in there, scallop. And we're going to add in our cod. And we didn't do it this time, but I think what I may do the next time, I may do a quick sear or a quick roast of the fish in the oven, and that'll give it a slightly added layer of flavor. But we're going off the recipe that we saw now with a couple of quick modifications for what we like to eat in our household. And I think that's important. When you're cooking things, there's tradition and then there's taste. So you want to try to stick with tradition as much as you can, but you also want to make sure the food tastes good to you and tastes the way you want it to taste. And we're going for that with this. So another channel we watch and have watched for a long time is Patricia Nkube. Her husband is from Africa. So Patricia, if you're watching this video, ask your husband to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on, you know, what he grew up with in his native country. So we're going to let this cook for about 10 minutes. We're going to add in our cilantro fresh, cook it for another minute, and then we're going to go to the table and see what the family thinks. All right, family and friends, we are sitting down at the table, and I'm gonna call this Injera bread a success, even though it's my second time trying to make it, and it's definitely not as good as any of the ones that I got up in DC, but it's sort of spongy and it absorbs the flavor of whatever we eat. And the soup, I'm gonna defer to my family and see what they think. So, Mrs. SG.
It's very good.
Okay. It's a lot like the Brazilian seafood stew that we made, though. A lot of the same ingredients. Yeah, just really good. So let me give you guys a taste through a taste-o-vision. Wow. The potatoes are perfect.
Do you like it?
The shrimp are perfect. And let me try the codfish. It's really good. And everything has just a hint of sweetness from the coconut milk and the coconut juice, but a very strong seafood flavor. So I'm gonna call it a success. We still have to keep practicing with the Injera bread. So Mrs. Crew for Life, if you have any tips or suggestions on making that, we did use the brown teff flour, so maybe we need to use the white. And Mrs. Patricia Nkube, if your husband has any suggestions or tips for us, or any other cooks out there who cook African cuisine, East African, West African, South African, if you know anything about any of these ingredients and you have any tips for us, let us know.
Wanna drink a juice?
So with that, we're going to sign off and we're going to dig in. We have a semi-tradition where we do a soup to kind of herald the end of the cold season, end of the warm season. So this will be probably our last big main soup dish for a while. I say that even though my wife will eat soup all year round because she's from a warmer climate, so she doesn't worry about the winter, spring, summer, fall seasons. If she wants to eat it, she eats it. So speaking of which, are there any soups back home that this is similar to? So nothing like this, no seafood soups with coconut milk or anything?
No, with coconut juice. I don't know.
Okay. So now my next adventure, I'm going to find a seafood soup from the Philippines so I can cook that for my wife next. So with that, nothing else. Nothing else coming from the ham on the street or his big ham brother. And Sapper Pup's over there doing things we don't even want to tell you she's doing. So as always, God bless our great country, America. God bless you wherever you may reside around the world. God bless your garden, your homestead, your allotment to give you bountiful harvest, your kitchen to give you tasty meals, no matter where they come from around the world. And God bless your family to have health, success, and prosperity. Take care, everyone. Sapper out.